how to start your Monday morning. Start the fire, boil the water, grind the coffee, add filter, coffee in the filter, water into filter, watch it drip, more water, watch it drip some more, fill your cup, raise your cup, and no. Leave the house and leave it up to the professionals to make the coffee. I'll stick to the conversations. Welcome to Caffeinated Conversations with Brooke Allen. Hey, good morning. Thank you for joining us. This is episode 84 of Caffeinated Conversations with Brooke Allen. I'm Brooke Allen, just in case you didn't know. I am hanging out. We have kind of a crazy show ahead of us because I am with a bunch of content creators. And did you know today is actually social media day?
Really?
Yes. See, so it all timed out perfectly, right? So, okay, we are expecting Dr. Rose. I guess she's running a little bit late, so she'll be joining us. But in the meantime, I've got Demiree. Right, Demiree, tell me a little bit about yourself. We're just going to go down the line.
Okay, my name's Demiree. I go by Dem since we're all best friends here now. I love it for us. And I'm the owner of the new rebranded Dream World, previously Empower, which is Michigan's largest women empowerment conference and community.
And Dream World is actually, spell it for me.
Dream World is spelled dream like normal, and then world is W, capital HERLD, where women can make their dreams a reality and their worlds realistic. So
love it.
Yeah.
Love it so much. Okay, Tam, you are up next.
Yes, apparently I'm a content creator. Didn't know it.
You have a lot of degrees, so I hope you're not offended that I said that.
No, hey, listen, I'll take it. I am on a new journey to create more content. Yes, I am.
Okay.
But my name's Tamra Flake. I go by Tam, and also known as I Rocket Bald. I own the organization I Rocket Bald, which is a platform to give voice and image confidence to people who are living or loving someone with hair loss. I'm a motivational speaker, as me and Barbie were talking about. I'm a model. I do that sometimes. I'm actually an author. I'm a published author.
Okay, girl, you're making me feel like
I'm like, I got to go back and say a couple more things.
Right?
Yes.
My list.
It's like, what am I doing?
Listen, I'm a wife, a mother of 2 adult sons.
And you married, we'll get to this later, but you married your high school sweetheart.
I did.
I think that is just so awesome.
Y'all pray for him. He needed it.
Thank you, too. And you have 2 boys.
And I have 2 adult sons, yeah.
Okay, so 2 boys. Okay, and then producer Rachel is in the house. And Rachel, thank you so much for being here.
I love this so much.
Of course, your resume is extensive, right?
I mean, I have almost 30 years of experience in media. So live TV, radio, podcasting, and then content creating. What I really am as a producer is a storyteller. I help people tell stories, and then now telling my own too, trying to weave all of that in there.
We kind of try to make it all mesh, don't
Exactly.
we? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And you've got 5 kids?
I do. I have 5 kids. I have 3 older stepsons and then a 13 and a 14-year-old still at home. So, and grandchildren. Like,
Well,
I'm
the
a grandma.
thing makes sense now.
Right. So, yeah, it's, all the things.
It's all the things, and here we are, right on the couch, right? So how fancy is this?
Yeah.
Right? Okay. So first of all, I want to ask you all a question. What does resilience mean to you?
Resilience to me means being able to bounce back from something that is meant to bring you down. Like, there's a lot of things that I'm sure all of us have been through that we thought we would never bounce back from, but not only bouncing back from it, but that journey. I think a lot of people think that resilience means the bounce back, but it's the process to come back from the setback for me.
Love that.
Yeah.
Tam?
I think when I think about resilience, I think about the process of going through pain and still moving forward from it and not getting stuck in that pain and being able to bounce back from it. Yeah. That's just a simple definition.
I love it.
Well, I also like understanding that I'm the creator of the reality in a way. And so for me, when you go down to that space where you're like, okay, well, here are the obstacles that I have to overcome. I've really learned that I'm not just resilient and surviving it. I can also create what I want to happen next and learn from it. So as long as I'm not just ping-ponging back, but I'm moving up and away from that space, whatever happened. It helps me to know that I can do hard things and like keep doing hard things. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, it does totally. And so, I mean, we're all moms, right?
Yeah.
And so how important is that to play into the whole idea that we're showing our kids what resilience is?
Well, I feel like our kids show us what resilience is because You think about your kids from birth until a certain age, right? And they are experiencing life anew on a daily basis as they continue to get older. And so initially, when I thought about resilience, I thought about how resilient my children are and how that kind of changes as they get older because they start to learn more, they experience more in the world. And then so they have to make conscious decisions as they get older, like having the knowledge of the things they've experienced prior to say, I'm going to be resilient and bounce back from that, or I'm going to learn from that and circle back around and just continue to fight through that pain, or I understand what that pain feels like now, and it made me more resilient. But I just think about when kids fall, you know what I mean? Like off of a bike, you're learning how to ride a bike. They don't give up.
No, they just keep
they
going.
just get back up. The kids, they scratch their knees, their legs, especially the boys.
Yeah.
They are so resilient. They actually teach me as an adult about resilience when I was raising my boys. They taught me about it. I had to remember myself how to be more resilient. And when you get knocked down, you get back up again.
Yeah.
How old are your sons?
Now we're getting into the fun stuff. So my youngest is 21.
Okay.
And my oldest is 24. He's in the Navy. Y'all give it up for my baby serving our country. Thank you for your service, Jason.
Yes. Where is he?
He's stationed in Lemoore, California, which is just outside of Fresno.
Okay.
And he's finishing up C school or something like that. He's in the Navy, so I don't know what that means. I don't know if it's the letter C or SEAC, but he's learning how to become an aviation technician, and he'll be moving on to Washington State, where his carrier is located.
That is amazing.
awesome.
Okay, so Demiree, you are all about women empowerment,
Mhm.
right? And, sometimes people say, oh, I am all about, helping other women. And then you realize they're really not.
Oh my God. Every single person watching, every person in this room and on this couch, we're laughing because we've all experienced it. We've all experienced, I'm a girl's girl. And you're like, you're Regina George from Mean Girls. Like
Yes.
you don't you walk the walk, but you don't talk the talk. Like it's so common to see women say that they want to uplift other women, but they don't. And I feel like it's their own insecurities of really portraying what they really need.
Yeah.
Even though behind closed doors, they're talking negatively about people. They've got things to say, like everyone's their competition. And I just think we experience that more than not of having the genuine girls and women empowerment, because I feel like there's a lot of insecurity and comparison with social media and how other people are succeeding in life and what people have that you don't have. And I think women feel this lack in their life by being mean to other people, it kind of dismisses the things that are missing in their life. So it's kind of sad, but I do think that we've all experienced the I'm a girl's girl, or even when we say like previously when we were in Power, people are like, oh, Empower. I'm sure it's that girl from high school that was completely rude to everybody. And she's like trying to make a business out of it. And it's like, we're trying to actually make a business to show you that you can be an actually nice person and encourage and uplift people and be successful actually doing that. And I think that being able to show women that you can actually be a nice person and be successful kind of sheds a light on like, oh, wow, okay, I don't have to be negative to everybody.
I don't have to be rude.
I don't
right?
have to be a mean girl.
I don't have to be a
Yeah.
mean girl and bust into song.
Yeah.
Okay,
Can
so
I just co-sign on
Of
what
course,
she's
yeah.
saying, though? Because I only met Demiree once before today. And it was because she invited, I forgot to say, I'm a talk show host, too.
oh yeah, I
I was
know
going to say, when you were like, listen.
Isn't it over here? It looks familiar
But
here.
she really, really does, walk the walk that she talks, because she has offered the Every Woman show to come into her space, no charge, to just have that additional exposure at her conference. And it really meant the world to all of us. And it opened up our eyes a little bit more too, to say, oh, here's this empowering space for women. We became a part of that ecosystem. You are such a girl's girl. Like I experienced it. I witnessed it just from meeting her for like 20 minutes, and how open she is to giving of herself. And I think that just makes you even more successful when you are just openly giving to people the way that you do. It helps to grow what you're doing even more.
Well, and I'm gonna piggyback on it because I
Like,
love
can
her
we be
so
here
much.
every week? This is great.
No, but like really quickly, because you are the epitome of Not just like, here are the seats at the table and you can only fit these seats at the table. You're the epitome of, no, let's make a bigger table and invite everybody, right? We each have our own stories. We each can do things in a different way. And you are so beautiful at the way that you share, you help. I mean, you and I sat here for like an hour one day and you were like, here's all the things that I can give you for nothing. You just met me. So I love that energy around just working together and not competing with each other. There's plenty of space for all of us. And I feel like for so long, we all had to feel like we had to fit these boxes and we couldn't be ourselves or we didn't have a voice. And we weren't confident in our own stories. And so when you're confident in what you're doing and who you are in your own story, you can live in that space of there's plenty for all of us.
Yeah,
and she embodies that perfectly.
It definitely changes the conversation around how women are catty. And, not willing to help each other, and you are being that change. So kudos to you.
Well, thank you.
High five, girl.
Hey, I love it here. I'll be here every week. This is great.
So Rachel, let's. I want to go to you for a minute because we both came from like the broadcasting
corporate
world,
media,
right?
Corporate media, yes. Corporate media,
and when you're talking about competition, and it seems like everybody wants your job. Sometimes they get it.
Yeah,
I mean that's the bottom line. But that coming from that space into kind of this space is night and day.
It is night and day because number one, you don't have to fit everything into like a 4-minute segment, right? You can let it breathe, right? You could go as long as you really want to. You don't have to stick to 60 minutes.
I don't have to talk in 25-second sound bites anymore.
Exactly, no sound bites. And I also think as a woman in media, we were always used to being, especially in radio, the giggle box co-host, right? And so now more and more women are actually able to host their own things in their own way without having to ask anybody for it. And I love the space that we're going into. I mean, Hollywood's losing money because people realize, oh, I can just do a Kickstarter and fund my own thing and do my own movie, TV show, commercials, podcast, whatever it is. Yes. Yeah. You don't need permission anymore. You really don't. No one has to greenlight you. You are your own green light. And when you realize that, it's like, oh my God, the whole world opens up to you.
It's a little scary at first, though.
It's so scary.
Right? It's so
right.
scary.
I mean, it's so scary. But with anything, I mean, we were having this conversation too. Like I'm writing a children's book. I am the publisher of the children's book, right? I'm not asking anybody else to publish it. So I'm betting on myself financially, spiritually, emotionally, physically, all the things. But until you're able to put yourself into that power position of like, no, it's mine. You're always just doing what everybody else is telling you to do. And so you are trying to meet an expectation that you didn't set for yourself. Right. And then until you sort of break through that and you're like, oh no, wait, I can do this. I don't have to stay here. It's amazing. And it's an amazing opportunity that you're giving to yourself.
And it is hard though to, because you have that negative talk, right? The negative self-talk, imposter syndrome, it's all looped into everything. And you're kind of like, okay, well, I guess I can do this. Then you turn, can I do this? I don't know that I can do this.
Right.
But we can do this.
Yes.
And that's what all of you represent. And, on this couch.
Right. We'll do it scared, right?
Yes.
Like, am I
Just
scared?
do it, right?
Yes. Yeah. And I'm still going to do it. And then when you sort of position it that way, like I'm scared and instead of no but ruins everything. But yes and gets you to the next step.
So Tam, let's talk about you for a minute. I rocket bald. You were 6 years old.
Yes.
When you started noticing bald spots in your hair. So can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah. So I was in the first grade, and the funny story. It's funny to me now because you remember those little scissors they gave us in first grade back
with Elmer's glue. Yes.
In the 1980s. But I cut my hair in class with those scissors one day trying to make some bangs or something, and then some quarter-sized bald spots started to show up in my head, and I'm like, oh no, what did I do?
So you thought the scissors?
I thought it was my fault.
Okay.
But that it was first grade. I started to develop the quarter-sized bald spots. God bless my parents for one, having employment and insurance so they could take me to the dermatologist and get it diagnosed. It was diagnosed as alopecia areata. And what would happen is my hair would fall out during the school year, would grow back in the summer. They attribute it's an autoimmune disease. And so they attribute it to nervous system stress. It could be hereditary, any number of things. But I was like, I'm stressed out because my hair keep falling out when I'm in school. Like this, this too much. I just need to be on summer vacation all the time. But that was when I was diagnosed with it. And so for a while, I would go back and forth with wearing just this headband because my edges was shot. And I just had this like straight up afro looking like Alfalfa and Gumby, if y'all remember those characters. And I would just, do what I could with what hair that I had until it all fell out. And then I would have to start wearing wigs, which made me very different in elementary school.
And
because
it was obvious?
It was obvious because I was the only kid who wore their hair straight every day. I looked like Dora the Explorer. These little wigs that curled under right
the bob
here.
And the,
yes. And they didn't have any wigs like the ones they have today where it can look more natural, where you can wear ponytails and French braids and all the cute little styles. No, I was wearing $29.99 wigs like the mother of the church.
Oh.
Okay. And they would get a little matted up after time, but we would just go get a new one. And I would have to, as I got older, figure out how to style it. But there was nothing to hold that wig in place. So it kept me from doing sports and activities the way I wanted to. And one time in gym class in elementary school, it fell off when we were playing kickball. And I think only one guy saw it. I picked it up and put it back on really quick. And it was a non-issue, like for me.
Right.
And he never said anything. But then there was a time in middle school where, a boy used to like bully me every day and call me wig lady and all these other things. And we were at a dance and he decided he was going to snatch it off and throw it on the ground. So I've had moments like that throughout my life where kids were being very cruel. It challenged my insecurities, and psychologically I was a little messed up. And again, my parents took care of me and got me a therapist, and in the Black community at that time in the 80s, it for sure was unheard of, but they did it and it helped to, for me to get the tools that I needed to be successful throughout my childhood. But yeah, it's been interesting growing up. It took me about 29 years to get to a point in my life. Well, I was age 29 when it happened. So I was 23 years, I guess, to get to a point in my life where I was just like, I'm done with hair. Okay. And I owned that power. It
was your decision.
It was my decision. I pulled that power away from the world to say, I'm going to tease you. I'm going to talk about you. You don't have hair. All those things, all those feelings that I had to process over those 2 decades, I took that power back. And I said, I'm just rock it bald.
And you do.
Yeah.
And you do. So, okay. So you have I Rock It Bald. It's your platform. And you're an author. You speak publicly about this. And if there was a child out there now just being diagnosed, what would you want them to know?
I would tell them to, first, their parents are doing the right thing by getting them diagnosed and learn and educate yourself, because they have so many things today from advancement in medicine and technology that will allow them to have options. I didn't have very many options, but there are options now that can help re-stimulate that hair growth, and it actually works. But to know their options, choose the path that's best for them, and then just own that power. Like, understand the emotions that you're having and own it. Take it away from the world to make you feel uncomfortable about who you are and who God made you to be.
I love that.
That's excellent. Thank you. Okay, Demiree, women's empowerment. We're back to this. You have this conference. Your colors are pink and orange,
yes,
which is so funny. So I met you here at Every Media, and you and Rachel actually for the first time, right, that morning. And what was so funny is that I knew a ton of people who were going to your conference.
Oh, it's so cool.
And so I started seeing the pictures on social media, and I'm like, wait a minute.
Yeah.
I just met her. So how did you come to embrace this and get so many people on board? And I mean, I don't want to say buy into you, but I mean, as far as just know that this was a good mission.
So my first business, I owned a clothing store in Port Huron called Brew Boo. And the concept of this was I wanted to open up a clothing store because I like wearing fun clothes. I'm also not a size 0. I'm curvy. I was tired of having this idea that you had to wear this type of clothing, and this is what you have to do to be beautiful and to understand your body shape. So I opened up a clothing store. And after a few years of having that and hosting so many events inside, I was traveling and doing all these things and meeting all these amazing women. And I'm like, you know what? I want to continue to meet more amazing people. I'm going to close the storefront and I'm going to do online. Well, as soon as I closed it, I'm like, oh my God, well, how do I have an event now? I don't have a space to have events. And back then I was definitely somebody who didn't like asking people for favors, AKA using other people's storefronts or booking something with other people and feeling like a nuisance. So I'm like, I'm going to book my own thing at this hotel, and it's just going to be a giant girls' day out where I'm going to have my boutique stuff. And then it slowly turned into, well, are there speakers? Is there food? Is there drink? I'm like,
are there giveaways?
Yeah. Is there a raffle? Well, what's going to be happening? I'm like, Yep, absolutely. And so I threw together something. I reached out to a couple of my close friends, one who's here actually in the crowd today. Dana was one of my first speakers. And it was just such a fun event. And it was just crazy because the concept of it was just to bring women together, to have fun, no expectations, nothing crazy. And the feedback was, well, when's the next one?
Awesome.
And I'm like a person who's like, oh, I know I could do this so much bigger and better. I'm like, give me a year and I can turn this into something bigger. So we found a bigger location with more vendors. And I wanted to include more people because I'm really big on, I do not get to where I'm at in my life by myself. People have this ego of like, I'm me and I'm only me because of me. And that works for some people. That's not what works for me. And I want to show people that collaboration truly is the key to success for me. And you can do that too, especially with working with people in the same industry as you. So working with other women-owned businesses and having pop-ups and speakers all over the country and just really connecting with other women-owned businesses to be a part of this and not be the Demiree show. And so this was our 4th year that we just did at Huntington. We're going into our 5th year with a new rebrand with the concept of Dream World, which is really focusing on the fact that connecting with other women and businesses and people around not only the country but the world to make something so special. And that's why, even though I'm like love disco balls and all the things, the fact that our logo is a disco ball, because I like to say I am but a reflection of the coolest women I've ever met.
That's awesome.
And so it's showing, connecting with amazing women. Like they both were there. Dana's there. Like Dean was there. Like there's so many people that were there that it's like, this is why this is the way it is. It's not because I get on the stage and I say a couple words and people are like, okay, that's it. That's the event. It's because they're there with their TV show. Rachel's there meeting people. Like everything is so special. And I think because it's not the Demiree show and I make it about me, I make it about everybody and showing like this is an event for all of us. It's truly something that is so special because I think a lot of events want to be them, like they're the host or the MC and it's their way, or the highway, and I want to do things a little bit differently. So
That is awesome.
yeah.
I saw it everywhere. It looked amazing. You guys were there. How amazing was it?
It was phenomenal, and she really did it. I mean, I think you were probably up on stage maybe twice, and we were there for a few hours. And she had some phenomenal keynote speakers. I connected with all of them, and it was a lot of just connections going on inside the room, outside and around the room. I mean, the setups that some of the folks brought were so cozy and comfy, and their products were good. It was wonderful.
But she's also managed to create an online community where every year then we can all, because I'm part of her online community, 'cause she's beautiful and I love her so much, but it's also like great to get together with other people. And then you can be in that space together in person, right? So like she curates this amazing online community and they're very active. It's very hard to do what she has done because I know I'm trying it. It's just like nobody wants to be part of a community.
She makes it look easy.
But she makes it look so easy. But people show up for her. She's created super fans, which I think as not just as a creator, but as a storyteller, a podcaster, we want to create those super fans, those people that keep coming back and then are amplifiers for the brand. And she has created that beautifully because she's always stuck to truly who she is. She's never pretended to be anything but that. And I think people just gravitate towards her. She's magnetic in that way. And not everybody is that.
So how you use the word magnetic, and have there been times in all of your lives where you were not feeling so magnetic?
Yeah, I feel like in previous relationships, especially like the environment you surround yourself in, that can be romantic partners, your family, your friends, your job, people will try to dim who you are to make them comfortable. And if you stick around it long enough, you become to believe it. And I think in those moments, like mine, for example, was like a previous relationship that I was in that made me feel like this small and like I couldn't accomplish anything that I wanted to do. And I believe that. And then I think about my life from 10 years ago to now, it's unrecognizable because I've changed my environment. I hit a wall where I was like, I know what this life looks like of not being magnetic. And I don't like it here. And so I want to change it and change my environment. And I moved out of my city. I moved out of state. I, met someone new. I changed friends. I changed jobs. I've done everything. And the more you understand what makes you magnetic, you start stepping into those things more. And then it just becomes undeniable. But I think it's people become unmagnetic because they're around the wrong people or environments that convince them that they need to be somebody else in order to make those people feel comfortable.
Mhm.
And once you start understanding the places and people you need to be around, you become magnetism is just authenticity, just being who you are. And then the right people attract to you because nothing's more uncomfortable than showing up at something. Like I could never go to a vegetarian event and be like, yeah, I could never eat that burger. Like that would, and no offense to the vegans, like nothing against them. Like some of my best friends are vegetarians. I'm like, couldn't be me.
No.
But like nothing feels worse than showing up and being like, oh my God, I would never eat that burger. And then going home and ordering sliders to
Right,
go.
right.
Like and that's who you are. So there's times where all of us, because I think we want to make other people feel comfortable. And when they're comfortable, we feel accepted. And
Mm.
that's really uncomfortable. You go home and you're like, why did I do that?
Right.
Why did I
Yeah.
say that? Because I've noticed the fear of rejection and fear of people not liking you, you'll do anything to not have that. But I found like I'm okay now with not being liked by people. I'm not liked by everybody. Everyone's like, she's obnoxious, she's too crazy, she was barefoot on stage at her conference. Like there's all these things that people aren't gonna like, and I'm okay with that because the right people who do attract to me that I
Right.
don't feel like my soul is being sucked from
Mhm.
makes my life, job, mental health a whole lot easier. So
Yeah.
Okay, Tam, what about you? As far
I mean, she said a lot of things that really hit for me because I went through a period beginning of last year where I changed jobs and I was loyal to a company for 20 years before leaving and being at another company for about a 5-year stint through a few mergers actually, and then left again. And both of those organizations were large organizations where I had access to big resources and, the things that I could used and tap into to do the things that I enjoy doing at work and were just not as readily available in my new environment. And so it was a period of isolation. I went into a mild depression. The people who I thought were like, oh, we're still going to have these work relationships after I leave and change companies. My number's not changing. You still know how to find me. I'm out here on social media, but those things kind of fizzled away. And I'm naturally an extrovert. Like I walk into a room full of, 1,000 women and I'm like, yes,
hey.
like, let's meet people, let's connect, let's collaborate. And so I had to learn over this last year and a half, like, who am I when I sit alone and I'm not around a bunch of other people? Like, I am a self-starter, I am self-motivated, but I'm also motivated by the energy of others and those who are attracted to me. And I learned that I am naturally magnetic through my authenticity. I'm trustworthy, and I'm all these things that make up the brand of who I am and just my real self. And I show up that way every single day, whether it's at work, in my personal life, family life, whatever. If I show up as this person all the time, then I'm going to attract that what is best for me. But that was the one period that I can recall recently that I didn't feel so magnetic because I was shedding a lot of things. So it was transformational for me in a way as well, to realizing truly how magnetic I am when I have to stand alone.
Right.
And it's been an awesome journey for me.
And I think being alone is eye-opening, number one,
Yeah.
right? And then you do suffer loss because then you realize someone who's in your life may not be good for you anymore because you are changing, right? And I think that's kind of the deal. And I know, I mean, I can openly say that when I left Jay, I was okay with leaving WWJ, but at the same time, you walk out the door and you're like, well, there's my identity.
yeah.
Right. And that's what, I mean, I think you probably know that feeling too of, well,
Yeah.
that's what I'm identified with.
Yeah.
And I remember, so I left on a Friday and I went to a networking event on like that Monday. And I have these what does your business card say, right? It's like former news anchor, what are you going to do? So I gave it to someone. She's like, oh, well, you're not there anymore. And I was like, no. And she's like, well, why would I call you? And I was like, oh,
Thank you.
okay then.
Because I'm a human being.
Yes.
Like,
Because I
outside of
still
my
have a skill set.
Yeah.
Right. But that whole idea of, it was like, oh my God, my identity is gone now. And now I'm by myself because the work friends, everything changes. And I don't know if you have felt that way, Rachel, but
Well, I just interviewed somebody. Her name is Jessica Serrato, and she's a numerologist. And she said, what I'd like you to do is get a candle. And I want every day to put it in your dinner or dessert. And I want you to just celebrate you. And I started breaking down crying because I was like, I don't understand. Like, how do I celebrate me? And she's like, so often you've gone through your life and you've celebrated what you do. That's how you've defined yourself. She's like, now it's put what you do aside and start celebrating who you are. And I was like, I don't know how to do that. And she's like, perfect, get curious and start asking yourself how. And so in that moment, I was like, oh, wow, I'm not defined by what I do. It is about who I am. And I think that I'm so many different things. Am I like the girl sitting on my, laptop with my greasy hair in a bun? Yes. Am I also the one that can show up professionally for clients? Yes. Do I also create cringy content online about my family? Yes. And so I had to start accepting like all of the pieces of me. I think I was scared, especially when you're from corporate media, to like put the like spit show version of yourself out there because I didn't want clients to think, oh my God, if she like, can't clean her kitchen, how is she going to get my work done? Right. I can do both things at the same time. And so I really had to start understanding when you take the mask off and you're being your true authentic self, whoever is magnetized to that is really your people. The people who only liked you in the masked version of yourself were not your people. And so you have to, like you said, shed it. Like it just starts shedding. The people start shedding on their own, right? When they see like
that's
who
what's
you
so
truly
interesting,
are.
right?
Yeah.
Because all of a sudden it's like, well, I don't, oh
Well,
no,
I
they
can't
don't
use
return
you.
your-
I can't
yes.
manipulate you. I
Right.
can't lie to you anymore, right? Because
Well, it's
you're
the whole
like
thing.
in
Why would I
that-
call you?
Right. Exactly.
Bottom line, right?
Exactly.
And that like crushed my soul, for a couple of months, honestly, because you're working through that and the whole identity thing. And of course, everything else is wrapped in it too. Collaboration and competition.
Don't exist together. Like I think collaboration and competition are two completely different things. And I think sometimes people look at them and think, oh, I'm collaborating, but there's a whole different meaning of collaboration. So for me, what I've been recently doing, I own a women's empowerment conference and community that's online 365 days of the year. I've been doing this new thing where I have been quite literally sliding into the DMs of women in different states doing exactly what I'm doing. Talk about competition, right? They have an online community that is reaching women all over the country to sign up to pay a monthly fee to have them coach them or talk to them about something. I'm sliding in their messages. I'm like, I admire what you are doing. I would love to hear more about what you're doing. I now have friends in 7 different states, 3 of which I'm speaking on their stages in Vegas, California, New York this year. And that is the collaboration. I think people say, oh, I'm going to collaborate. I'm going to collaborate with you two. You don't have anything to do with what I do with my business. So I think when you start collaborating with people doing exactly what you're doing, that's where it starts to be actual collaboration. There is collaboration with bringing other women into your stuff and having different businesses in, but there's this different, I think, like exhilarating feeling of collaborating with women who are doing similar things to you and not seeing them as your competition. And it has been like this whole eye-opening experience for me of like, I literally just had one of the girls today. Her name's Haley. She lives in Arizona. She has a women empowerment conference. She has events all year. She has an online community. She just called me before I came in here. Was like, hey, you need to change this, this, and this about your business or you're going to run it to the ground. She could have easily been like, I'm going to let you do you and I'm going to let you burn this down and I'm going to be the only one doing this.
Right.
But she's not. So I think a lot of women are like, I'm going to collaborate. There's this difference of working with people doing similarly. I mean, if you can find me doing exactly like you, that is so different. Like it's just one step further of collaboration, because I think people think a collaboration is only utilizing people that have no competition to them, and that's still not collaborating.
Right.
Does that make sense? Like I feel like I'm like kind of going all over the place with it, but yes, collaborating with women can only help you get to the top. Women doing different things as you, but when you take it a step further and think of women doing exactly what you're doing, it's this whole different like euphoric feeling of like you didn't even know that much collaboration could happen because you're surrounding yourself with women who don't see you as a threat, because no one is a threat to you. No one's you. No one's going to do a talk show like you. No one's going to run an organization like you. No one's going to do all the things that you do. You know what I mean? And I think that that's the true key to collaboration, is when you fully understand who you are, you can openly work with anybody in the world
And not be threatened.
and not feel threatened. And that is collaboration. because like I said, I've been with somebody like, I'm collaborating. I'm like, you're having an event with 6 different people that all have nothing in common with each other. Yeah, you're collaborating together to make an event successful, but can you have somebody do exactly what you do, walk in this room and not feel threatened?
Right.
No.
Mhm.
Like that's a whole different meaning of
Right.
collaboration.
Well, the whole, I think scarcity is a thing, right?
Mhm.
Scarcity
Right?
mindset.
Yeah, it's like a
Yes.
big buzzword, but
Yeah.
it still is
Mhm.
it hits to the core
Yeah.
because it's like, okay, well, if I'm coming from a place of scarcity, then it's like, oh no, I'm going to take this and I'm going to keep this, and you don't want that contact, and I don't want to give you this person,
Mhm.
because you don't want to lose anything.
Yeah.
But when you change that mindset,
Mhm.
then what you just said, it just opens up a whole new world,
Yeah.
and you're not threatened anymore. You're just like, come on, let's go. Let's do
Mhm.
this.
No one has never I hope no one has never said something negative about somebody who has helped them. Think about that. Like if you're like, oh, I love Demiree. She actually showed me how to start my podcast for free, and she connected me with this person and this person and this person. There are things that she's already doing versus gatekeeping
Mhm.
and not doing it.
Mhm.
Like those people are going to want to, I know that's for me. Like if people help me, I want to connect them with so many other people versus the people I've met. And I'm like, oh, you live in a scarcity mindset. I don't ever want to refer people to you because how many
Mhm.
more people are you going to do that to?
Yeah.
So it's like, you don't have to give away all the goods, but the more I've realized like I'm sharing all my secrets with people, the more it's like full circle moments of like connecting with even more bigger, better, amazing things together. And having that scarcity mindset, I think only inhibits you and gets you so far before you like burn out because
Mhm.
it's
Well, because
not.
you're also wasting money, not money, you're wasting energy in living in fear.
Yeah.
Like, so that's why you're going to burn out because all you're doing is comparing yourself to what everybody else is doing. It's
Yep.
like, just do your own thing. I compete with my own self
Yeah.
most of
Right.
the time, is
Me-
like the
me
person I
versus me.
compete with.
Yep.
Mhm.
Right. And so if you do feel like that fear or if you feel like that competition, like really sit and think about like where that's coming from
Yeah.
because it's, if you live in that space of truth and honesty, and it's like, fine, here's literally the playbook, you do it your way. Like she said, we all do it differently. We all have our own story. I mean, I work with realtors. I'm like, there's millions of you across the world, right? I
Mhm.
can throw a penny and hit a realtor. But like what makes you different is your story. People buy the why, they don't buy the what,
Mhm.
right? So like her conference is her conference and everybody else's is their own. It's
Mhm.
their story. And so you have to really fully embody your story to be confident in the collaboration aspect as opposed to the competition. It just comes from a place of fear. But I compete with my own self. I know she competes with her own self. I know
Mhm.
she's already going to make this next conference in April like bigger and better, right? Because every year, like what else can I do to serve my community?
Yeah. I think women also have this idea that scarcity makes like other people feel comfortable because like the number one thing I hear is women coming up to me like, oh, I want to do something like this, not as big. Like they almost have to downplay it because they're
Right.
afraid that I'm going to be like, oh, of course you want to do something. I'm like, so I correct them. I'm like, no, we're going to do it. We're going to do it bigger and better. And how can I help you? Who do I need to connect you with?
Right.
And they're like, you would do that? I'm like, yeah, like I don't see I'm doing one event a year.
Right.
I'm not doing them every day a year. Couldn't pay me enough to do that. But I'm like, you do your event a different time, and I want to give you all the resources to make it the way you want to do because every conference is going to be different.
Mhm.
But it's funny that women come up to me or they're like, I want to do like X, Y, and Z. I'm sure you guys have heard, oh, I want to do this, or I want to start my own organization, or I want to talk to a talk show, but it won't be anything like yours.
Right.
Like they downplay because they're afraid that you're going to be like,
I actually had somebody walk up to me in a restaurant and say, hey, I love your show, but guess what? I'm starting my own. It won't be anything like yours.
right? It's
And
the
I'm like,
first thing that they say. It's the first thing that they say. And it's like we take it one or two ways. Like it won't be anything like yours. Why? Because you don't like mine. You want to change
Right,
it.
exactly.
It's like, what's wrong with mine?
Right. But I think a lot of time they mean it in a way of like it won't be as big. So like you shouldn't feel threatened.
No
Like
competition.
I'm not gonna invade. Like don't worry. And I'm like, why?
Right.
What's the problem?
Mm-hmm.
And it's funny how many women, I'm sure we've all heard that are
Do you
like,
think men do that? I don't know that men do that.
I don't think
No.
so.
I just heard dudes
Yeah,
say something.
I don't think so. I've actually
No.
had a conversation with Dean about this last time I was in here. I said something about my previous conference, and he straight up said, "F them, you do you, and that's what's going to be set you apart from other people." And he's like, "It's none of your business of how you're upsetting other people, and if they're not in the same mindset as you of like growing and wanting to be the best, then that's not for them." And so I think men don't have that problem, and that's why half the time men are really successful at what they do.
Because they just don't seem to care.
They just are
really,
like, I'm
right.
going to do me. And if it doesn't work out, cool. And if it does, it might attract the right people.
Right, for sure.
Wow.
Gratitude. Let's talk about that because, I think every day I read about, well, if you don't have gratitude, you're not going to attract gratitude, So Tam, how much has gratitude played in your life?
A lot. I have a gratitude journal. And I'm in the practice of being grateful for what I have. I was just having a conversation with my father on the way here, and he's like, "Hey, baby girl, what's going on?" I said, "Oh, Dad, I'm just so grateful that all of these things, right? Before I even put my feet on the floor in the morning, I'm just thinking about things that I'm grateful for. When I was traveling, I met a woman and I heard her say to the person she was traveling with, tell me 5 things you're grateful for today. And I'm like, ooh, I like that. And so I immediately went to my son. I'm like, what's 5 things you're grateful for today? Here's my 5. So I think that it's important to be grateful for where you are and what you have today, right? Because how can you have more abundance if you're not grateful for what you already have?
Mm-hmm.
Whether you think it's a little or a lot, or whether it's just enough or not, you know what I mean?
Right.
You got to be grateful for what you have, and not comparing your stuff and what you've got to anybody else. Be grateful for what you have. And so I am in the practice of just being grateful for everything that I have, my mindfulness, a sound mind, use of my limbs, all of the things, a family that is supportive and loving. I just show gratitude for everything that I have that allows me to be who I am every single day.
Was there a day or a time when you didn't, though?
Yeah. When I was broke. No. Like when I was trying to rub 2 nickels together to make $1. But I've learned that, maturity has helped me to get to a place where, you know what, just be grateful for what you have. And when I started practicing that more frequently and being grateful for what I have now, things started to shift for me. So it was a mindset. And yeah, I won't look back. I'm grateful every day. I'm grateful for every day.
Right, for sure.
Just
right?
the simple things.
Yeah.
Waking up and being able to do something that's purposeful and meaningful and has impact.
How about you, Rachel?
I had to start being grateful for the mistakes I made too, right? I had this visualization again in an interview that I did with Jessica Serrato where she's like, I see you holding these big boulders of like past mistakes and all these things that you think were like roadblocks. And she's like, put the boulder down and understand it's your stepping stone to the next thing. And until I could be grateful for even the negative things that have happened to me or perceived negative, right? But really understand they were for my highest and best good because it's our story to tell to help other people. And then seeing roadblocks in a different way as like, it's not a roadblock. You just walk around the roadblock and you keep going and then you can tell that story. And so really being grateful for even the things that I, at the time weren't easy, at the time felt horrifying and life-ending. Now in this space, I can be grateful for all of those things because I wouldn't be where I am today. I wouldn't be who I am today. I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing today. And so being able to be grateful for even those and understanding like God, universe, source, whatever you believe in, like, okay, I understand that was for my highest and best good. It didn't feel like it at the time, but now I'm so grateful because I wouldn't be here right now without those roadblocks or issues.
Well, I know Tam mentioned that you ask your son, right, about what are 5 things you're grateful for. And I try that with my twins at dinner sometimes. And of course, they say the same answer, right? And then they start arguing over, well, you just took my answer. I'm like, can't we all be grateful for the same thing?
Right.
But it's kind of that mindset of you can be grateful for the same thing.
Yeah.
Right? Because it's all different for all of us.
Yeah. Yeah, good and bad. Like, I think, like you said, this whole thing is a full circle moment. Like, she just talked about all the good things that she's grateful for and even the bad things that she's grateful for. And then you talked about the mindset. It's the mindset of being optimistic about the things that have happened in your life, good or bad, reflecting on that to move forward. And I think that that's really what gratitude is reflecting in a positive way of the things that have happened to you, not getting in a victim mentality of all the crappy things that ever happened to you. Because then you're just
why me?
Yeah,
Right?
why
Why
me?
me?
Or why am I not making enough money? Or why do I have a unsupportive partner? Or I'm doing the best. It's taking good and bad, reflecting in a positive way, having an optimistic mindset on it, and moving forward. And like Tam said, the more you positively, good or bad, think about the things in your life, the more good things you start to notice. It's like, I relate this every single time I talk to my girls in my community about this. Have you ever bought a car? And the minute you drive off the parking lot, everybody in the universe has that car.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
You notice it because you're more mindful of noticing it. Meanwhile, before we bought a blue Bronco, no one had a blue Bronco. We drive off the lot, everyone's got a blue
Everybody's got a
Bronco. Why did we buy a blue Bronco? But it's that same thought process. Everybody already had those blue Broncos, but you're more mindful of that. You're more mindful of being positive. The minute you start looking at good or bad things in a positive light, you start looking at really crappy things that happen in your life instead of getting stuck in the mud about it. You're like, not that you can be grateful about everything and like a rainbow and butterflies. That's not realistic. But take those feelings, stay in it for a moment, and then reflect on it in a positive way to grow, or take the good things and grow as a better person by having that gratitude, aka optimistic mindset. The more amazing things or bad things are going to attract to you, but you can move forward in life in a more productive way.
Don't you think that's kind of an age thing though too? Because I look at the twins are 13 and I'm thinking, oh, you've got such a long road to go, right? And I'm thinking, okay, if I teach them gratitude now, then when they are older and as they go through more challenges, it will be easier for them. But I think that this is one of the life lessons that we get, because we are able to age and have that benefit. And I don't know how to teach. How do you teach kids that, besides saying, well, tell me 5 things you're grateful for and don't argue.
Yeah.
I mean, what
you live it.
You
live
right?
it through example, because whether you realize it or not, our children watch us. My youngest son taught me that very early on. I would correct him for doing something, and he'd be like, "But Ma, you just did this, and what about when you said?" But and I'm like, "Dang, I did do that."
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So you really have to model the behavior for them, because whether they acknowledge it immediately or not, they're watching, and it's a part of their foundational growth that they reference back to. Even in my conversation with my dad today, when I was telling him about, I was shopping for something, I'm like, "Yeah, Dad, and I always thought, about that lesson you taught me to make sure you get multiple quotes and shop around and get the best price. When I take a shower, make sure you lotion your whole body. When you wake up in the morning, don't forget to take your vitamins." Just stuff like that, right? Like maybe I didn't like it in the morning, but I heard you. And it's still, and all these many decades later, it's still applying. And I'm like, I vividly remember when you told me to do that. So I think that we teach them by example and by doing and by living it and by walking it. Because if you don't, where else is that behavior going to be modeled for them?
I also let my kids know, though, like, you have a choice, right? There's the good wolf on one shoulder and the bad wolf on the other. Like, which are you going to feed? So you have a choice in the matter. And then also understanding that, like, what is my role in something, right? I think for so long I did live in victimhood. Like, this happened to me. And until it was reflected back at me, like, well, what was your role in it? That I understood, like, oh, I reacted a way that I wasn't proud of. I wasn't reacting in the way that, like, made me grateful for the opportunities that I was being given. And so also really realizing, like, you're in charge of your reaction and you have the opportunity to choose.
Okay, so Rachel, you have this quote that says, "If guilt worked, you'd be crushing it by now."
So
and I kind of love that.
What was the quote?
Go ahead and say it.
I don't.
Oh,
you
so
say
if
it. Read it.
If guilt worked, you'd be crushing it by now.
Okay, so that was a ChatGPT hook from a reel that I did, but the reel was basically about how, especially women, we feel like when we're not getting to the thing and we're not checking off the boxes every day, we start to feel guilty. We feel guilty as a business owner, as a parent, as a wife. And so, like, we'd be crushing it by now because we have so much guilt every day. I had to start to learn how to be flexible in my schedule and give myself grace. I didn't get to that thing today, and that's okay. Instead of going in that loop of, like, I suck because I didn't get this done. I suck because I didn't get this done, right? And so
spiraling,
instead,
right?
It's like, what does spiraling do for you? Nothing.
Nothing.
So sit down, look at it practically, like, move the guilt away, and then just be more flexible in your schedule.
So real quick, can we talk about mom guilt? Anyone have that here?
Oh, every day. All the time.
I was like, no. I think Dr. Rose is here. Come on in.
Speaking of caffeinated conversations, I need a coffee this morning.
Oh, well, we can get you a coffee. How are you?
I am good. How are you, ladies?
Good. Thank you so
Thanks
much
for having me.
Yes, thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
So, at the beginning, I had everyone kind of tell a little bit about themselves. So go ahead.
Oh, go ahead. My name
as
is
you
Dr.
like it.
Rose Moten. It's a pleasure to be here. I am a clinical psychologist. This is my 27th year of practice. In addition to that, I have a wellness center downtown Detroit in Rivertown called Bloom Transformation Center, where we incorporate traditional psychotherapy services, but more so we are doing holistic services where
Love that.
most of our population are mothers, women, mid-career life women who come there, and they are able to achieve just a level of wellness that has been foreign to them for far too many years. Because again, I'm sure just catching what I did of the conversation, we all are familiar with the demands that are on us with life. As a mom of four, my last daughter just graduated U of M in May. So
awesome.
I am
Congratulations.
thank you. I am free.
Yeah.
I am free, as you would say. So it's just an amazing feeling. But now I'm in this chapter of who am I? Because I've been a mom responsible for 4 children. My oldest is 32. And even after all the kids left home several years ago, you know, with the last one being on campus, I still had a dog to take care of. So my beautiful DOG even died in the fall after 16 years. So, you know, great, you know, beautiful blessing to have him that long. But that really means, okay, there's just me.
And you know this too, though, because like we're the last priority.
Yes,
right. And so
absolutely.
to even have them as your ideal client, I said this once in public because I was like, you guys are awful as ideal clients because you will do anything for everybody else. But when it comes to yourself and spending money on yourself and your mindset and changing all the things, you will not do it.
You will not do it. It's so important for us to recognize that because we've been so conditioned that that's our role. Is to,
everyone else is
like
first.
they say, pour not from a full cup. We're pouring from empty cups.
Literally.
And we were never taught to make sure our cup is full. And then you pour from that full cup and you wait till it's
even though we
filled
hear
up
over
again.
and over again, like in the airplane, put your
Airplanes.
oxygen mask
Mhm.
on first before
Yeah.
everybody else.
Right.
We understand the concept. We don't actually utilize
Yeah,
the concept.
yeah.
We don't put it into action.
I like to even share with my clients, you know how oftentimes, depending on what church or religion belief you may have, they say, you know, you pay your tithes, you're 10% off the top. And I tell them we have to give ourselves that 10%, that 20% off the top before we start giving to everyone else. But we do just the opposite. We're depleted and we're poor from there. I just shared a post yesterday and it's really just catching on. People are sharing it. And I think last I checked, there was a couple of thousand, you know, that had liked and shared and things of that sort. But it talked about, it's really making the rounds. A young lady named Quita Cole, who was a 40-year-old restaurant owner that posted on social media, I need a break. I'm taking the next 3 days off. She had been working 7 days a week, you know, all the other responsibilities. She finally got that break. She went home, went to bed and never woke up again. Yeah.
Lord.
Yeah. And it's so, I mean, that can be our cautionary tale, right? That can definitely be our cautionary tale. Because how often have we found ourselves just pushing, saying, we can do it. I can find it. I'll muster up the strength. And what are we doing inside? So I love what I did catch of the conversation when I arrived here. One of the things I shared is that as a life of a former workaholic, overdoer, perfectionist, get the kids, all my kids are doing so well because, you know, I work my, can we curse? Ass
Go
off.
ahead.
Like, I work my damn ass off to make sure of that. But then it came a time, it's just like, oh my gosh, I think we can all feel when our health is not being its best. That's physical and emotional. And I'm a believer, nothing happens on a physical level before it first starts deteriorating.
No, it's a tap.
Yeah.
Like you should take care of that.
On the emotional level. And then we ignore that. And then it manifests and expresses itself with physical disease. I tell people emotional dis-ease leads to physical disease. And so what I did, I just started really deconstruct. It got to a point where I'm like, just F it all, you know? And it's, I tell people how I did it was I really, figuratively and literally started to deconstruct those structures and beliefs that I built for myself. And I became like this unapologetic poster child of walking away from any person, thing, situation that taxed my wellness. I would leave it. And miraculously what happened is all of a sudden your health improves. All of a sudden, all those things that you beat yourself up trying to achieve starts flowing in your life with far less effort than you ever imagined.
Right. So the whole idea of doors opening or doors closing, and if you have to pry open a door, maybe it's not meant to be.
Yeah.
Maybe
right?
it's not meant to
But
be.
accepting that can be
Yeah.
really hard, and you keep pushing, and then finally you're like, okay, well, never mind. I'll just go to the next door or whatever.
Yeah.
So It's funny what you just said. I have had meningitis 7 times.
No.
And what's so interesting is that my neurologist said, you know what, there's got to be something going on because you're getting sick and this is being triggered somehow. It's got to be stress. And, I changed my life a couple years ago and I've never had it again.
Mm-hmm.
But it's interesting because I never made the connection of your physical well-being and your mental well-being being so connected.
So connected.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah.
And well, you also like, and you can probably all attest to this too. You get to a certain point where someone asks you one day, "How are you?" And you're like, that one day you're honest, and it's like, "I'm not okay."
Mhm.
And then
you
they
start
walk away.
pulling at that, but when you
Oh my
start
gosh.
pulling at that, "I'm not
Yeah.
okay" thread, you can't go backwards. You
Yeah.
really can't. And so, like, there's deconstructing it. But then there's also, I think we are always like a gulp away from a breakdown. And it's not like, let yourself have it. Like, let yourself go through it because
Yes.
it's really a breakthrough.
Yeah.
And when you can be honest with why you are in this space feeling the way that you're feeling, and you start pulling at that thread and that honesty comes out and you realize, oh, because I'm living someone else's life, someone else's expectations. I didn't create this for myself. I put myself in a box because that's what people expected of me.
Yeah.
But what do I want,
Yeah,
right? What is
yeah.
my truth? How do I want to live my life? And then once you start pulling all that out, you can't go backwards. Because once you see it and you get a taste of it,
Yeah.
right? I'm not going to go back to that.
During that period of transformation that I was telling you about that I went through earlier last year, I had those, like, when people would ask me, how you doing? I'm not okay.
Mhm.
I was being really honest with them, but really being honest with myself, admitting that I'm not okay.
Yeah.
I'm mildly depressed. I don't want to get out of the bed. And so I didn't.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Good for you.
Every weekend, if the phone didn't ring, if a text didn't come through, if I didn't have it on the calendar, I stayed home and I
Good.
just recharged myself.
Mhm.
And that was one of the things that I would feel guilty about, that because I wasn't cleaning the house, I wasn't doing laundry, I wasn't doing any of it, but I was recharging my battery because I had hit a wall where I could not go forward anymore. And so that time was transformative for me as well, to realize that, hey, you've got to pour back into your cup, you've got to
Yeah.
recharge your battery, you've got to get yourself back into a mental state that allows you to continue to be you and show up authentically every single day.
Yeah.
And at your top of license, like, just when I am me at my best, I'm all these things. I'm magnetic, I'm trustworthy, I'm enthusiastic, I'm all these things. And then the universe rewards me. Your post that went viral about, God show me, how good life can get. Ever since I've seen it, I've incorporated that into my daily affirmations. And I even was listening to Dr. Michael Beckworth this morning talking about, I forget what the subject of the podcast was, but it was the very first one that he did for January of 2025. And he was like, try this affirmation on for size about, I'm available to all the things that, are good for me that I've never experienced before in my life, like beyond my wildest dreams. I'm totally messing up exactly what he said, but it was something to that. And he gave an analogy about how a woman looked window shopping on Rodeo Drive in Beverly Hills and like, let me just go in and try it on. I can't afford it, but I'm going to go in and try it on. And she tried it on, and then somebody saw her in it and bought it for her, so she didn't have to spend a dime. She
That's how it
manifested
works.
that affirmation for herself. And I'm like, you know what? I'm incorporating that into my business because
Going
Dr.
to
Rose, when
Rodeo
I
Drive.
actually started doing that,
Yes.
I
see
had
the results.
I had a most phenomenal day. I was just going about my day. I met a woman randomly. I'm shopping in the at-home store.
Oh, I love that store.
Oh my gosh, I went in there
Trouble.
for 2 things and ended up an hour later, $330 later with all the stuff. But we had a conversation because I walk around, I forget I don't have hair. And people see me and then they feel led sometimes to approach me to talk to me. And she had been, suffering with alopecia. So we just struck up a conversation and she was like, well, where can I find your stuff? I'm going to follow you. You're amazing. So that was part of the reason why, I did what I did with I Rocket Bald, is so other people can see themselves in me. Like you were talking about earlier, like you have to see somebody reflecting it so that you can do it too. And even even better
Yeah.
with a collaborator,
Yeah.
with someone who's
Yeah.
open to the fact of, hey, yeah, you can do what I'm doing and there's no competition. Matter of fact, how can I help you do
Yeah.
it better?
Yeah.
So I don't know. I just went on a rant
Gives
there.
permission.
Yeah.
No, it gives permission. You guys, you've heard the story about the pink flamingos
Yes.
before?
Oh, yeah.
They
Okay,
lose,
so
yes,
you
lose your pink, get your
yeah,
pink back.
yeah,
Yes.
get your pink back.
Mhm.
It's a, you have to, we deplete ourselves so much, even if you're not a mom, because I know there are people that watch this that may not be a mom, or, but it's just the demands of being a woman
Mhm.
that we have. And the research consistently shows how, and I'm a believer in partnership and marriage. I am. So, but I want to state this is that, married women
Mhm.
actually have a lower life expectancy than single women. Married men have a
Higher.
higher life expectancy. And it's not the marriage. We don't want to say cause and effect, but the correlation is because we get in these partnerships and we fall back into these expected roles that we believe we're supposed to play, another
Mhm.
caregiver as opposed to a partner, and then we put our needs on the back burner. So it's so I have a 7-step system called 7 Steps
You
of
have a book
Personal
on that, don't you?
Transformation. Yes, Bloom. Yes, thank you. And one of the things that I really, step 2 of that, step 1 is all about rediscovering you,
Mhm.
getting to the truth of who you are. As I stated when I came in, now that I literally don't have day-to-day responsibilities of, we'll always be a mom, but it's like, okay, that's gone. I don't even have to get up and walk the dog several times a day anymore. That's gone. Okay, who am I now as a woman, as a now, single woman, and I call it my prime of my life.
Oh, hell yeah.
My
Mhm.
kids
Love this
like
I'm going
to
to clap for that.
Yeah,
'cause-
yeah.
Second half, man.
My kids like to remind me, they've been reminding me that this for 15 years, you're middle age now. And I'm like, stop, but they're telling me now I'm at the other end of middle age. So it's like, whatever, kid. But it's like, who am I? What do I want? How do I want to redefine myself? And so even step 2 of that process is all about challenging what you know. Muhammad Ali said a man, or we can say a woman at 50 that still believes everything she believed at 25 has wasted 25 years of their lives, because it's all about permission to change your mind. Permission to live authentically, permission to create your own rules at this point. I don't know if you guys feel it, but this world is changing fast, very fast. The roles are changing. You can I was looking at some of the questions and topics we were going to discuss today, and I'm so proud of even the next generation. Say what you will about them and their attitudes, but I think their look on life is really helping to usher us into this new reality.
For sure.
Yeah, because they're not falling prey. I was a believer when I became pregnant in undergrad with my first child. It was like, oh, I have to get married now. It was no, like, do I want to get
Do I
married?
want to?
You just have to.
Do I want to?
Yeah.
It was like, no, you have to get, and I did it. And I had 3 more wonderful children with this person until I think there's periods in our lives where it's just like, it jars you into a new kind of reality, or forces you to kind of face things when you can't suppress it anymore.
Mhm.
Right?
The suppressing is.
So we
That's
call that
aggressive.
losing your shit, right?
Losing
Literally.
it. Yes. And mine correlated with losing my father. He had a major stroke when he was just 36 and I was 12. So I became a caregiver at 12. So literally I've been caregiving for over 40 years of my life. And then when I went away to school, okay, freedom in school, but what happens? I become pregnant and I'm a caregiver again, but I remember around the age of 30, losing my dad. And that was really a wake-up call for me, because at that point, I was just doing. I was a human doing. I was, I got pregnant in undergrad, but I had the kids. I was on full scholarship. I didn't skip a beat. I literally took finals in labor, and I went back to school after Christmas break. Didn't have to miss a day, that type of thing. Then
Just kept it going.
kept it going,
Kept it
kept my
going.
promise, got married right after I graduated undergrad, then went right into grad school and a full-time job. I'm doing that. I have another kid in grad school. I start my practice. Going to a PhD. I have another kid with my PhD. I finished my PhD. I think I'm done. Yay. Husband gets the vasectomy. My dad dies. And then vasectomy's canceled, and 2 months later, I'm pregnant again. And with this kid, I wrote a book, and it's just
Right.
like
Listen, having kids for you was kind of
I
rewarding.
Yes, that thing, right?
Dually, kid
every
degree.
kid degree.
Kid
every kid degree.
Oh my
But it
God.
comes a time that's just like, stop. It's time for you to evaluate.
But you were almost like playing like the game of life, right? Like you
Mhm.
do this is the next step. You do this is the next
Yeah.
step. And until you take all that away and realize you go back to that like little kid with the imagination and realizing like I'm the architect of my life.
Mhm.
What do I want to create?
Yeah.
Is the most beautiful space to be in.
It's so
Where you're like,
beautiful.
imagine, you can imagine so many different possibilities of the way that your life can go. And now that you don't have like step 1, 2, 3 anymore, it's literally whatever you want.
Yeah.
It's got to be such a freeing space, a scary space. But
But
when you can go back to
exciting.
that,
Yeah.
where you're like, I can imagine endless possibilities for
Mhm.
the rest of my life.
Yeah.
And I can architect that and I can create that because we choose. We choose to be busy, right? And
Mhm.
we can choose not to be busy.
And we
Right.
can
Mhm.
choose not to. And it should be exciting. I tell my patients all the time, be excited. I know it's scary, but be
Mhm.
excited because as you said, it's like you're the Michelangelo now. You get to
Yes.
paint your own picture. You get to
Yes.
create this next chapter.
And then you test it out and you have fun with it. Like we all
Mhm.
talk about manifesting, but like truly, like you can say the things to the world and it's like, I
Mhm.
want this to happen. I want it to
Yeah.
go this way.
Yeah.
And until you get out of like NPC mode, right? Like our kids play video games, they're like NPC is like non-player, right? It's just the people that are around you. When you start realizing like, oh, like I'm in it now.
Yeah.
I'm playing the game.
The
And
game of
this is
life.
what I
Mhm.
want to happen.
Mhm.
And then you start to see all those little things
Yeah.
start to connect like puzzle pieces.
Mm.
And I think sometimes when something bad happens, we think like, why did this happen to me? But it's really for your highest and best good to put, because the, world, universe, God, whatever is putting those puzzle pieces together behind your back.
Yeah.
And then when it's like, boom, the biggest conference ever, you're like, oh my God, this is amazing, right? When the things start to go and fall into place, you're like, oh wow, like I really can like make these choices and say, I want it to be this
Mhm.
way. It's
That's amazing.
fascinating when
It
you're in that
is.
space.
Okay,
I
so
got
I've
musical
go
Tourette's
ahead,
going
Tamra.
on in my head. With everything that y'all say, I'm like,
Musical
you
Tourette's.
can be a winner. It's a game of life.
But you can. That's a good jingle.
Affirmation, even. I'm
Really
sorry,
was.
Brooke.
No, I love it.
Okay, so one more question. Okay, so Demiree, if you were to meet your younger self for coffee, what would you tell her?
Oh, that's a good one. I would say to not be afraid to say and be who you want to be. I think that, like I said, society tells us who we need to be as teenagers, as kids. See my son, he's 8 years old, who lifts his shirt up and says, I'm fat. And like, you can just be
Mm.
exactly who you want to be and not feel that societal norms or what other people's perception of you are none of your business. And that's going to help you get to where you want to be. Because I think for the longest time, younger me did everything everybody else wanted them to do. My parents, my bosses, my jobs, when now having and I'm still learning that, right? Like, so I think younger me is to be whoever you want to be that you want to be, not for other people. And that's what's going to help you get closer to what you want and who you want to be a lot faster. Yeah.
Okay, Tam, you're up.
Yeah, I'm just thinking about my younger self and how I made decisions about how I moved through life through the decades. And I would just tell her, don't stall. Don't let the consequences of life that have happened to you stop you from continuing your education because I had children young.
Mhm.
And so I'm like, dang, now I got to go to work and get a full-time job and take care of these kids and, have benefits and all these things, right? And it stopped me from continuing my education for a period of time. I could have gotten it done in a shorter window. So I would tell her, don't get derailed from life because of the things that you think are mistakes or consequences in a negative way. They're not. Let them motivate you and continue to encourage you to keep pushing forward. Like, don't stop, go hard, keep going. You can do it. Just all the encouragement in the world. And back to what I was saying earlier about the emotions, like own your emotions
Mhm.
and take the power away from the world to make you
Mhm.
feel other than happy and joyful, because that's the inside job.
Mm.
Lovely, thank you. Okay, Dr. Rose.
I would tell her to not stop believing in magic
Mhm.
and the power that she possesses within. I think oftentimes we look externally to the answers, and everything we seek resides right within. It's like I go back to thinking of the Wizard of Oz with the Dorothy shoes, and it's like you had it all along. It was with you all along. And I was that kid that loved, and I'm not telling my age because they were reruns at that time, but like Bewitched. Like, you know, I was like, oh, can I do my nose? If I do my nose like that, can I make things? But it's so, you don't want to give up that wonder. That's why I love kids. I love looking at kids. I love seeing how they interact with the world. I love how present, you know? And so it would be, don't stop believing in magic and knowing that in order to tap into that magic, you've got to be present. You've got to be in the here and now, because that's where all the abundance and prosperity and manifestation relies. Not in thinking about the past, obsessing about that, or ruminating about that, and not in being anxious about the future. But when you can be in the present, your magic and your power is always there for you.
That's beautiful. Well, it's like it's the whole I was a human doing for so long until I could understand how to be a human being. Like everything changed after that. And I think I lived in fight or flight for so long, right? I was either going to fight you or I was going to run away from the situation. And until I realized, like, no, I'm in charge of how I react to it. And it's okay for me to say, no, I don't like this. It's okay for me to say, hey, can I come back to that conversation later? Because I can feel myself getting upset. I can admit it. I didn't realize, like, oh, I choose how I react to a situation. So I would just tell her, like, you empower yourself to make choices. You're not forced to do anything. You don't have to fight all the time. You don't have to run away from it, but you can choose and you can say no. No is a complete sentence. And I think that took me so long to understand that, like, oh, wait, I don't have to do this. I could do it this way instead. And people may not like it. You may lose people in your life. You may lose jobs. You may lose friendships. You may lose relationships. You may lose your marriage. But when you're living in that like peace and that space of truth, it's okay. It wasn't meant to be. And the right things will fall into place. I think when you think like, I'm going to lose everything. Yes, but how beautiful is it to start from nothing? And then you can create from there and bring in and call in what you do want instead of living a life you don't want.
Yeah, you face the fear, really. Right? It's really what it's about. Well, thank you, ladies, so much. It was so much fun to have you all on the couch. Dr. Rose, we're glad you made it.
My God. Please forgive
I'll get you a cup of coffee after this.
Thank you.
Real quick, I know we have to go, but this, never mind what this is. It's self-tanner. So there's that real quick. But it's called Rooftop. So I do an after dark show. And we hadn't done one since December of last year. And we just scheduled the first one of 2025 for July 30th. I'm giving a hint only today, so it's on a rooftop. I will tell you that much. On July 30th, I would love all of you to come. It will be magnificent, and another hint will be coming soon. But it is on the rooftop, July 30th. Mark your calendars. This is your official
I know. I was like, dang, is she saying I need self-tanner? I'm like...
So thank you so much. Seriously, a pleasure. I've met you, never met you, and I know you. But seriously, thank you so much for these conversations. And I think it's just so important, that we take empowerment and we actually mean it. Right. And the whole collaborative versus competition, we actually mean let's collaborate. And I think that this is just a good example of that.
Absolutely.
Right? So thank you so much for joining us. Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.